There was once a sweet little maid, much beloved by everybody, but most of all by her grandmother. Once she sent her a little riding hood of red velvet, and as it was very becoming to her, and she never wore anything else, people called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day her mother said to her, "Come, Little Red Riding Hood, here are some cakes and a flask of wine for you to take to your grandmother. She is weak and ill, and they will do her good. Make haste, but don't run, or you might fall and break the flask of wine, and there won't be none left for your grandmother." Now the grandmother lived away in the wood, half an hour's walk from the village, and when Little Red Riding Hood had reached the wood, she met the wolf. But as she did not know what a bad sort of animal he was, she did not feel frightened. "Where are you going so early, Little Red Riding Hood?" "To my grandmother's." "What are you carrying under your apron?" "Cakes and wine. My grandmother is very weak and ill." "Where does your grandmother live, Little Red Riding Hood?" "A quarter of an hour's walk from here. Her house stands beneath the 3 oak trees," said Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, "That tender young thing would be a delicious morsel, and would taste better than the old one. I must manage somehow to get both of them." Then he walked by Little Red Riding Hood a little while and said, "Little Red Riding Hood, just look at the pretty flowers that are growing all round you. And I don't think you are listening to the song of the birds. You are posting along just as if you were going to school, and it is so delightful out here in the wood." Little Red Riding Hood glanced round her, and when she saw the sunbeams darting here and there through the trees, and lovely flowers everywhere, she ran about in the wood looking for flowers. She went farther and farther into the wood, but the wolf went straight to the grandmother's house and knocked at the door. "Who is there?" cried the grandmother. "Little Red Riding Hood," he answered, "and I have brought you some cake and wine." "Lift the latch," cried the grandmother. "I am too feeble to get up." So the wolf lifted the latch, and the door flew open, and he fell on the grandmother and ate her up without saying one word. Then he drew on her clothes, put on her cap, lay down in her bed. Little Red Riding Hood remembered her grandmother and set off to go to her. She was surprised to find the door standing open, and when she came inside she felt very strange and thought to herself, "Oh dear, how uncomfortable I feel." And when she said, "Good morning," there was no answer. Then she went up to the bed. There lay the grandmother with her cap pulled over her eyes so that she looked very odd. "Oh, grandmother, what large ears you have, the better to hear with." "Oh, grandmother, what great eyes you have, the better to see with." "Grandmother, what a terrible large mouth you have, the better to devour you." And no sooner had the wolf said it than he made one bound from the bed and swallowed up poor Little Red Riding Hood. Then the wolf, having satisfied his hunger, lay down again in the bed, went to sleep, and began to snore loudly. The huntsman heard him as he was passing by the house, and thought, "How the old woman snores! I had better see if anything is the matter with her." Then he went into the room and walked up to the bed and saw the wolf lying there. And he made up his mind that the wolf had swallowed the grandmother whole, and that she might yet be saved. So he took a pair of shears and began to slit up the wolf's body. When he made a few snips, Little Red Riding Hood jumped out and cried, "Oh dear, how frightened I have been! It is so dark inside the wolf." And then out came the old grandmother, still living and breathing. But Little Red Riding Hood went and quickly fetched some large stones with which she filled the wolf's body, so that when he waked up and was going to rush away, the stones were so heavy that he sank down and fell dead. They were all three very pleased. Little Red Riding Hood said to herself that she would never more stray about in the wood alone. How'd that go?